Monetary system seems to collapse. I said it seems, because I cannot know if it will happen or not. If, until now, we have examined the monetary system and saw how harmful it is, and we presented solutions to improve those situations created by him, now, these solutions become a necessity when we see that all the evidence shows that this system is collapsing. I will only present to you some evidence which leads to this collapse. You, to get any kind of goods or services, need money, and to get them, the only way is work. Basically, you have to do something for the monetary system to work for receiving those money. Now, exactly, from here, this collapse comes. People, having nowhere to work, will not have purchasing power. Remember, if jobs are less available than those who need them, is a major problem. And now, this is happening. As we saw, when we talked about work, jobs are increasingly replaced by automation machinery, and this is an ongoing and progressive process. No matter if your job is irreplaceable at the moment, because if hundreds of thousands cannot work anymore, then there will be problems. You are not the only participant in the monetary system. People will not have purchasing power, is simple. It doesn't matter if the prices will fall or the salary will increase. If the people will not have purchasing power, will be major problems. The second situation represents the monetary system's inability to continue. Technology. Let's just refer to two technologies. 3D printers.
All that stuff can just be built into the parameters, so the person's not designing. The person isn't expected to be an architect. They just know what their intent is, and they just push their intent around, and the computer gives them all the assistance as though they are sitting with an architect right behind them. So now you got 3D scanning getting into the computer, tweaking it around, doing it automatically so that you don't have a skilled professional needed to do everything you do. Now you have to spit it out and make something useful out of it, and this is where things get fun. Digital fabrication, you can call it absolutely anything because it's a semantic nightmare here. These are all the names that I could come up with in 5 minutes for it, but it has a lot more. It's an engineering tool, so nobody knows what to call it. But basically what it is, it's an additive process, as you guys have seen with the MakerBot and stuff you have back here. It's additive. That's the main difference, is that you're assembling molecules either by layer or by dust particle or by liquid that's being sintered or liquid being deposited. You're doing that layer by layer by layer. You do it enough times and you get a pretty good facsimile of what you originally intended. So that's a typical machine. This is a liquid-based machine. If you're going to be designing car wheels, it'd be really hard to machine each one out of a block of plastic and get the likeness. Better just do your design, send it out to print, come back the next day, pull it out of the oven and ready to go. So about the whole situation though is that complexity is free when you're doing additive fabrication. And now suddenly you're kind of being challenged, if anything, to see if you can be as creative as the tool lets you be, because it can do far more than your brain could ever handle. That's what I think is really exciting about it, is that it really doesn't have limits to it. Just talking about metals, that's one of the new exciting things. Metals used to be a real pain, now they're getting good. Turbine blades, things that are really difficult to machine or make any other way. You can make really high definition, really high quality metal parts now. Medical stuff, I have plan before you cut. What a cool thing is, okay, if you come in and you've fallen off your hoppity horse and you've destroyed your shoulder and they have to figure out, okay, you've got bone fragments all over the place. They have to strategize before they go in and have you under gas. So, well, they can actually do MRI, get your bone structure, MRI or CT, one of those, get your bone structure, get the DICOM data, three-dimensionally print the whole thing, and then strategize on it before they open you up. So they know where all the parts are and they know what part's going to come out and which are going to get rearranged in which way. So there's John in a 3D body scan. There's a parametric model. So this model can take any human, you drop it in, you say, okay, reinstantiate. There's John's sound side leg mirrored over, dropped into the parametric model before instantiating, and there's the new leg. So this is this leg. It gives them a sense of symmetry back. You know, it's kind of a big deal. It has a 7-bar linkage, so the motion of the knee is perfectly calibrated to a human motion. It moves through the same motion that we do. The foot is sprung just like our own ankle. The gastrocnemius here, the calf muscle, that's sprung according to the person's weight and activity level. So that will give spring back with each step. Something that, because you're printing all pieces at once, you don't have the titanium mounting parts and all the other details. You just print the whole thing, complexity and all. It's hollow, so there's a rib structure inside just like a bird wing. That keeps it really strong and really light simultaneously.
Which materials can you use? Does plastic and metal?
There's plastics, metals, ceramic, glass, all kinds of polymers, ABS type, PVC type. This is polyamide type. There are maybe 20 types of polyamides, carbon-filled, fire retardants, they're biopolymers. The guy to talk to is Andrew Hessel, and he is part of the faculty here at Singularity. He knows about that stuff. I don't know about bio stuff, but yes, there's a ton of work going on in biopolymers and all that collagen scaffolding and all that stuff. It's wild stuff. That's a huge area that's happening.
And can you print different materials in the same?
There's only one machine that'll do that. It is the Objet Eden machine, I think, that will do multiple materials simultaneously. Typically, metals are in their own world, polyamides are in their own world. There's one machine that'll do a handful, and it'll do like polymers and elastomers and colors. It won't do different classes like metals. Everybody's waiting for that day. You know, that day comes when you can just print anything you dream up, and things will be exciting then. The reason they can't do gold is they can print gold, no problem. But it would be $240,000 to take this titanium out and fill it with gold, fortunately.
Yeah, I was just curious about the durability and strength of the metals after they're printed as compared to just other manufacturing techniques.
Yeah, the metals are incredibly strong. They're almost entirely, well, they're not entirely dense out of the process, but you can hit it with something called HIP, which stands for hot isostatic pressure, where they heat it to its near melt point and a zillion psi, and that will knock out any errant molecules, and then it's like 99.9% solid and dense. So if you're doing like medical stuff like knees and hips, then you hit it with a HIP process, and then it's as strong as anything. Yeah.
What is the largest you can do with that?
One machine in Belgium called a Mammoth machine that will do 2 meters, and 2 meters by 1 meter by 20 inches or something. So they're big machines like that. There isn't a lot of demand for big yet.
Would you be able to print food?
There are food printers all over. Yeah, there are a number of those. There's some examples you'll find of like printed pretzels. There's the cupcake maker that I think MakerBot has some variation that does that. There's if anyone ever goes to Chicago, there's a restaurant called Moto, M-O-T-O, and you've been there? Yeah, it's supposed to be really cool. They print on the tortillas and you eat the menu, but they're doing a lot of really experimental stuff with repurposed HP plotters and really cool stuff. Yeah, 3D printing food is not far off.
What else can we expect in the coming decade?
What my company's going to roll out pretty soon, which is going to be really cool. We're in stealth. I can't say a thing about it. It's really cool, though. You're just going to, holy shit. But I can't say anything about it. Aside from that, I think Professor Kashneves will have some really cool stuff. I think we can expect the cost to go down, the part turnaround time to go up. The thing that I told all my students is the day that we start seeing these show up at Kinko's, which I've given a year before we'll start seeing them at Kinko's, that's when things get exciting because we start really democratizing fabrication and we start really inviting everyone to play. We already have open source 3D software called Blender 3D and SketchUp, and those are decent for free, and you can create fantastic 3D models and get them printed. So we can expect a lot of that. I think the medical world's going to be the big one. Disability's huge. Already now, here are a couple little just fun nuggets that you can entertain your friends with at the next cocktail party. So the machines, like this is a part out of an EOS P730 machine. It's a wiring harness. What's cool about it is they printed this on their machine. So, hinge and everything. This came out of their machine just like it is. They can print the hinges all together. So that's an example of the machine printing itself.
3D printers will empower the ordinary people and will destroy most of the goods-producing companies.
Companies are now outsourcing not to India and not to China. They're outsourcing to the customer. All you need to do is go to the ATM machine. The ATM machine, you punch in some numbers, you get your money presumably, but what you've done is taken over a job that previously was done by a teller inside a bank. And in fact, we calculate that something like the equivalent of 200,000 teller jobs are what people now make unnecessary by themselves, by we using the machines ourselves and substituting our work unpaid for the work of those tellers. And the same thing is true in many, many other activities where we take on and do for ourselves work that we previously bought in the money economy. We're now taking care of and doing without pay in what we call the non-money economy or the prosumer economy. Prosuming is going to explode. Why is that? It's going to explode because we're creating new technologies that individuals can use to do things for themselves. So it used to be, if you took a photograph, you then had to send that to Kodak in Rochester, New York, in order to get it developed and printed. So, and then it would come back to your local drugstore, and you'd pick it up a week later, and you had a photograph, and you paid for that. Now you buy a camera, a digital camera, and you make your own. You get your own pictures. So you are now doing work that used to be done in that Kodak factory. Okay, we are now developing, and will be developing, a generation of exceedingly powerful machines for individuals to use to create economic value, even though, again, it's not counted.
Right.
And so I believe we're going to see a tremendous explosion. And if you want to if you really want the breath taken away, think of this in terms of human history. At the beginnings of human history, everything people did, they did for themselves. There was no money economy. So you grew your own food, you ate as much of it as you could get before somebody took it away from you, probably the local lord. You grew your own food, you sewed your own clothes, you made your own boots. So everything was done outside the money economy. It was a non-money economy. Then gradually, money was introduced along with trade and exchange and all the things we know about. And the assumption that we all made for a long, long time, and indeed most people make until now, is that the non-money economy would eventually just go away, that we would all be in the money economy. And that's what we should be studying. But in fact, the non-money economy is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger instead of going away. And again, if you follow this down the line, you're going from developing your own films to having a fab or desktop manufacturing unit sitting on your table. Now, I don't suppose you're going to build your own car or your own airplane on your table, but you will be capable of producing complex components or other things that you yourself want to use. Now, just like bloggers are using the net to write for free what journalists get paid to do. So you have unpaid effort. So it's not that we won't have jobs. I think there will be jobs, but there's a parallel hidden economy that must now be recognized, and we've got to start thinking about how to integrate that and to recognize the integration between that and the money economy.
Nano